All right, everyone, it's time to gather around the bonfire once again here at FireLink Podcast, where we discuss all your favorite media like games, movies, anime, comics, and more. Coming from New York, I'm Larry, and all the way in Connecticut, we got my boy Sam. Today's episode, we're going to talk about Birdbox, the film that everyone's been raving about on Netflix. So, Sam, when did you first hear about Birdbox?
I heard about Birdbox a little bit last year. And I was going to watch it right away, but the holidays are a really busy time, so I didn't really get around to watching it until quite recently, being the new year of 2019. So that's really what, I finally got around to seeing it with my girlfriend, and we were just like, let's just watch it, give it a shot. It looks good. I thought it was going to be like way better than the normal Netflix material, which honestly I could say it's good. Like, it's good enough for that. It met my expectations for a Netflix original. But that's really when I first saw it. What about yourself?
Actually, my mom told me about it. She was like, and for my mom to like purposely go on Netflix to watch something, that like a lot of people had to be talking about it. Because she's like more of a casual moviegoer, She's not like hardcore.
I was going to say this movie is like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like, somehow. Like a little bit. It exploded.
Yeah, it's piquing everybody's interest.
Well, most of all, because Netflix mostly has like shit that's already come out,
Right.
So we've seen it all before. Like even now they got like The Mummy and Indiana Jones on there, and I've seen those movies thousands of times. Great movies. I'll even watch them again. Why not? But it's like, when you see something new that looks, as interesting as the trailer made it looked like something like Hideo Kojima would make or something, like it's got, those horror thriller, but like what's going on elements
like
with the monster.
It had like a really interesting mystery going for it.
Yeah, the supernatural element.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, going into it, I was like, oh, this could be, like, supernatural. This could be, like, government done, like, different dimension. Like, I was, like, religion-based. It had me guessing from the beginning. Because, to be honest, when I first watched it, at the beginning, I was like, oh, like, I got quiet. I was, like, I really started to, like, sit down and watch it. Because I thought it was really interesting. It had, like, I don't know if you've ever seen The Happening. But I felt like I felt like it was about to be a better version of that movie, and then it just kind of turned out to be like a okay version of that. Like, I would rather watch that than The Happening, but I don't feel like I'd even watch Bird Box again.
Yeah, I don't need to see it again. Like, I understood everything it set out to do, which I think is successful. I found out it was a novel. And I read like the synopsis of, the novel.
Yeah, I found that out after I saw it.
Yeah, so I read the ending or whatever because I figured it would deviate a little. It kind of does, and we'll get into that. Spoilers for all things Bird Box, in case you didn't know. The fact that there was a novel made me think, like, you know what? If I read this as the book, I feel like it, just like the Netflix movie, I feel like it's a one and done kind of deal. I'd feel satisfied. I'd feel like, wow, that was a fun little, not really, fun in like an adventure way, but that was like satisfying. Like, it's good enough. It's entertaining.
I'm actually really glad you said what you said about it, because I was thinking the same thing. I looked up the synopsis of the book because I wanted to find what the movie had missing, because I felt so unsatisfied at the end of the movie that I was like, oh, the ending to the book is probably something like they give an explanation or like a reason, and I'm like,
right,
man, this book seems kind of just as mediocre as the film, to be honest. Like you said, like a one and done, like, oh, that would be interesting if someone took that further, but
yeah, exactly,
for someone just read it and I guess felt something and wanted to make it into a movie with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And it, to even make something that gets, or even write something that gets put on Netflix eventually, that's really cool.
Yeah, no, like, good for them. And I mean, that's almost like another opportunity to go even further with the story a second time.
Yeah. Like now that you have this and like it's so successful, I'd be as a creator, I know if it was my story, I'd be thinking like, what can I like that was nothing. Like I've already come up with all the improvements and like how I can make it better and like this and that and like and I would be working on how to expand that universe. You have a compelling threat. You know, the solution at the end to me seems like a band-aid fix. You know, like are they just all gonna live there forever? And that's Bird Sanctuary Blind Academy.
It's basically a bow, like a nice bow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, how pleasant. So real quick, the book ending, the difference is that they end up at the same place, you know, the blind school, but the parents like purposefully blind themselves and the children, but they're like, oh, you don't. That's by choice. You don't have to do it. So there's a little like exemption clause, and well, you know, the main character doesn't do it in the book either, but in the movie they don't even have like that element of like, by the way, you know, take out your eyes, you know, like, or not, you know, they just kind of make it nice. And the lady shows up that, you know, that was earlier in the film when she was you know, getting her belly checked.
Yeah, that she wasn't in the book, right?
I didn't catch that, but also I was thinking in the movie was, what the hell are you doing here and how did you get here? You know, like that's so random. Like
they just wanted people to go, oh look,
it's her again, she made it, you know, like
remember she was in the beginning.
Yeah, to me that doesn't make sense.
Not
to me
at all.
She would have been toast. Like there's no way like she went through all that. Like
I know the eyes of a survivor when I see one.
Yeah.
When I see a coward.
But yeah, it's like I've seen those eyes many times before. I know them very well. It's like like what the heck. Another thing I thought that was odd, and we're mostly talking about the end right off the bat, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just on the tip of my tongue, so I got to get it out. So it's like the end, they, you know, they go down the river rapids and this and that, and they get into woods and it's all disorienting, and then they just happen to fucking knock on the door of this place, and I'm like, so this place is just randomly in the woods and somewhere, and like people just happen to find it. Like, you know, I know they had the radio broadcast or whatever, but it seems really like, how the heck are you gonna find this place? Like, and they found it by accident. You know, I'm pretty sure in the movie I recall them just like stumbling upon it.
Yeah, was that the place that she went to with the fishing line on her or whatever? And she leaves the kids in the boat?
No, that was earlier. That was just, you know, that was some other place she was just like scavenging.
Oh, whatever. You're still talking about the academy.
Yeah, I was like, how did they find that? The fishing things, I guess, whatever. The fishing line where they get out and, you know, scavenge. That's okay, because she heard the wind chimes.
Right. But
I was just like, how the heck did you find this place, you know, at all? And how did these other people just like, oh yeah, you know, it's easy. You just go into woods with the deadly, you know, invisible monster creatures, and then, you know, you just hop, skip, and a jump, and you're there. You know,
yeah,
like,
I don't get it, because the way they made it seem is that those monsters were still pretty dangerous, regardless as to whether or not you were looking at them. Like, they seem to still be coming after them.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that there were birds involved, to me it didn't mean anything. Like, you know, obviously the monsters are like bothered by them, maybe even repelled by them. I would say definitely repelled.
But that was not emphasized at all.
The people that were corrupted by them, you know, by the monsters that could still see, they had no problem picking up the bird and being like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I know the creature doesn't like this, you know, so I'm going to get rid of the equation, you know. So my whole thought was, well, aren't there corrupted people patrolling and just roaming around everywhere looking for people to make them see, you know, and stuff like that? Like, why couldn't a whole troop of them just show up at that academy and that's it, you know? So it's kind of a problem for me, because it's like like I was saying, it's a Band-Aid solution. It's like, what are they never going to have another issue again. That it ends on a happy ending, but I can't. My brain says that's not the end of it. Like they're still in trouble, and like at any point that whole thing could be, taken down, and they could be back at square one or pretty close to it, or just not totally safe. And like how do you combat the creature? Do you not? Do you just let it roam and let it be? And while you try to survive and just be, peaceful on your own.
Yeah, it's like they're just like, okay, here's the earth.
Yeah, exactly. It
All
seems
yours.
to like. I don't, I generally don't like stories like that. Like even the very prominent zombie stories all have that where it's like, well, there's no cure. It'll never end. There's no end in sight. So I get kind of bored by that. That's kind of the point of like the horror aspect of it, of like it's like the worst scenario you can think of, where like there's no end to it in sight and it'll never get better. But to me, I'm like, but I want it to get better. Like there should always be a like, way to defeat them or something.
What's the objective?
Yeah, it's like, how do we get rid of this? Really? Like, come on. It's
like then you just watch a movie of people running away.
Yeah, exactly. That can only work for so long, but there has to be a conclusion. Imagine, just for instance, it comes to mind. Imagine in the first Terminator movie, if Sarah Connor at the end destroys the Terminator, and it just like somehow just keeps coming at her forever, like, and that reminds me of a few movies we're gonna get into that really I started thinking about because of this movie. And one of them is It Follows. I don't know. Did you see that one?
God, that was so overrated. That was another one where people kept talking about it, and then I saw it, and I was like, really?
So that's like the Terminator coming at you forever concept, like you can't stop it. Obviously, the way it's transferred to you in that movie, the monster anyways.
It's like, okay, we ended off where we started.
It's like an interesting concept. It kind of has a draw to it for sure, but they don't know how to. It's like in school when you don't know how to elaborate on a subject, and the teacher writes it on your page like elaborate more, and you're just like, you're like, I don't need to do that. Like it's fine. Like I've said all I need to say. They'll enjoy it or not. Like next. But as a consumer of this media, you can critique that and say like, I kind of agree. You should elaborate more. It wasn't really satisfying. It's like a good idea that isn't fully realized.
Yeah, I mean, when I first watched it, I like looked it up and was like, okay, let me get like more insight on what's good here. Like, I definitely missed something because, when you first see a movie, you're going to miss something. So I was like, okay, I obviously missed something. Those birds got to have more significance. Like, the movie was called Birdbox, but no one was even like, hey, guys, this is what the birds do. Like, no one, they seemed to like know it, but there was never a point where you got the satisfaction of them figuring that out.
Yeah, it's all implied and told visually, which is interesting in a story about them not being able to see. It's symbolism, really. I think it should have been more explained because I noticed all of those things, but like you're talking to you, I immediately realized it's a problem.
No, what I meant was like I knew why the birds were freaking out, but I just didn't understand why they wouldn't have like a aha character moment,
Yeah, no, I know. Where they discuss it and they're like the birds or something like that. They had the one guy talking about all writing his book and whatnot, and he's like, oh, spirits and this and that and the internet.
Oh man, that was such a forced character. I literally was like, I can't believe this is like for real, someone wrote this guy.
But I also think that's the guy that would have said it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that, almost that level of like exposition. You have to like spell it out for everyone. But I feel like it wouldn't hurt to mention it.
Yeah, they got rid of that guy. They got rid of him so quick. He could have been like the explainer guy.
I feel like that was his role, and they kind of was like, let's just get rid of him.
I mean, not to mention, I really thought that he was pretty cringy at first.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you saw it on the internet. Like, even if I feel, there's very few times, like, when you watch a movie and they have that character that like, brings the bad news and, like, explains to people, but, like, nobody wants to listen to that guy because that's so absurd. But when you're watching it But when you're watching it, you're like, that guy's definitely telling the truth. Like, he's definitely the guy
Yeah.
that's right, and everyone else doesn't. They just think he's crazy. I thought the dude was crazy watching the movie. I shouldn't feel how the characters feel. I should be able to spot that guy out and be like, oh, he's the guy that knows. And then I can, like, listen to him, and he's going to give you the info. But I found him, as a person watching the movie, I was like, this guy's fake. Like, I didn't believe him.
See, the thing is like, I've heard people like that guy in real life, and I could relate, but in a way that I thought, yeah, like, I see where they're pulling this character from, but I don't really, like, it doesn't fit with the rest of the characters they've established. It does stand out.
Maybe if it was Stranger Things and he was like an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah, it was like they're pulling a Lando.
Yeah, like they were actual. Like, see, it works in Stranger Things that they connect. Like, could you imagine if it was a show of grown men using Dungeons and Dragons to figure out, like, how, like to figure out how to solve their problems? Like, that would be. You would be so confused watching that. You can't do that.
That's a different type of film. Like, that's totally something that's, like, not mainstream.
Right. But could you imagine? That's how I feel with that Charlie character. I'm like, he's too old to be talking like that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You put it perfectly. There's nothing wrong with him being interested in the things he's interested in the movie, but, like, it's so off-putting and so unrealistic. At the same time, I've met people like him, but mostly when I was younger, so, like, I laugh at it and I'm like, yeah, I've met that guy.
Well, I mean, if he was like a 14-year-old kid that somehow, like, made it, you could believe it more.
Just, like, believing in the boogeyman and, like, conspiracy theory and, like, just lore that he's heard about around, the internet, things like that. It's just...
He wasn't even a pothead. He was like a sober thinker.
Yeah, he was just, like, gathering it all for his book. So he just had that info kicking around.
I mean, it would have been cool if he, like, summoned them or something.
Yeah. It's like, I know a spell. Maybe it'll work. He just opens up the Necronomicon.
Like, there's, like, a moment where, like, he's, like, sitting in a corner somewhere, and he's just, like, they overhear him whispering to himself, like, I didn't mean for this to happen. They start, like, interrogating him, and then it comes out that he's the one who did it, but he's also the only one who knows how to stop it.
That's interesting, because no one knows, there's no ground zero established. Like, a zombie film or book would have, like, this is where it started.
Like, that's what you want to see. You want to see it go from something small to something that explodes globally.
Yeah, they just talk about it, like, in the beginning. They're like, oh, they heard it on TV.
Yeah,
it's
in, like,
in
Russia
Europe
or
or
something.
whatever. Yeah. So it's like, okay, whatever. That's how they treated it in the movie. They're like, whatever, it's not here. Because that's how most people would probably think about it anyway. So I get that little humor,
I would have liked for it to go a little longer. Like, I would have liked to have forgotten about that part. Like, if they like turn to something else, maybe like her daily life or...
Yeah, they got right to it.
They got right into it. I would have liked, something to kind of make me forget.
The pacing was odd. So that character, what is it? Sandra Bullock's sister. She's in a lot of stuff. She's in, like, American Horror Story and things. Sarah Paulson. So I thought her character as Mallory's sister, I thought it was like, when have you ever seen the gif of, like, Grandpa Simpson, walking in, taking off his hat and coat or whatever, and then putting it right back on or whatever, and just walking
Oh, yeah,
out?
he just walks right back out the door.
That's what I felt her character was in the movie. I felt like she showed up, she, like, said a few lines, got her stuff in, set up the character of Mallory, blah, 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 sister, and then she walks right out, right into the freaking truck and just, dies.
And let me tell you something. I thought that scene was intense. I thought it was cool.
Oh, of course.
If they would have had like a build up to it where, like, I kind of got to know the character and I let my guard down to the fact that she might die, then it would have been like something more graphic.
What was also odd about it was that the whole thing is the monster feeds on like your fears, and you know, like I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Like it makes you see your fears or something like that. So, or some horrific thing that makes you want to kill yourself. But her sister Mallory was just like, she's the happiest person ever. Like her character didn't really seem to have any kind of
indication of that.
yeah. So if it like Mallory has tons of stuff in the movie. Like she's a character, you know, she's got issues, you know, she's got problems, you know, isolation and this and that. And her sister is the happy, chipper person. And I didn't see it. I was like, what did you see? You never get to know. You can only imagine. And that's fine and dandy, but the other characters, they at least say like mom or something, you know, like something like that indicates what's going on. But with her, it's just like, nah, like no need. That's not interesting. But as the viewer reflecting upon what I saw, I'm like, maybe it'd be more interesting to develop her character a bit more.
And then when she's like offering her sister like a glass of wine while she's getting her baby checked, it's like that indicated to me that she had more of a negative nature anyway.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a good thing to bring up. I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, no, definitely.
Her death, that whole scene where like it really hits the town, I still would have liked if there was more time between that hospital scene, like them being in the hospital and getting right into it. If they had, you know, if they gave you some more development on the characters and their relationship, like they talk a lot about their past, it would have, maybe if you got some like flashbacks to like see what these characters have been through in life already, and then to see them go through this like extra mile would give you some sort of leverage on the characters and make you like them more, you know? You don't really feel like you know who you're watching.
Yeah, they had the past and future timeline switches all the time. But I felt like when they went to the past, I'm like, you're making this happen too quick. You're not focusing enough on these characters. You have quick, you know, dialogue scenes to learn about who they are and whatnot. It establishes it enough, but like if you're gonna spend the time to do it, like I'd like a bit more. So like I agree with you fully. It should have just the whole movie is just like elaboration, the lack thereof.
Yeah, but like they give you a clue, like it's like you don't even know how to explain it. They give you like a small clue that doesn't lead to another clue.
Yeah, just snippets.
But like not even more than like one clue. It's just like one clue. And then you can't even follow that further. It's so like dry.
Another thing about this movie is, to me, it conjures up thoughts of, you know, being a horror thriller movie. It just makes me think of all the other movies that have recently come out that like take away the character's senses as like the driving plot point of the movie. You know, you have like Quiet Place takes away their
they can't make sound. If they make sound, then the things hear them.
You're right. So yeah, they can't make a sound. But in like a movie like Hush, the lady in the movie, she's mute, you know, and she can't hear. So like they take away those senses.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because you could argue that that's something that applies to a lot of, like say like Jaws, it takes away, you know, your feeling of being on land and it gives you that feeling of being stuck in the ocean. But these movies bring it to
you're
such
helpless.
Yeah, these movies bring it to such an extreme that they just take a whole sense away.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, what can we do now that Alien and Jaws and stuff have come out? Both movies with monsters where people are isolated and, you know, there's only one way out, and that's to destroy the monster. In this, they don't destroy the monster, but their senses are still threatened, and if they ever utilize those senses, they are killed. So it's kind of just like a new genre that kind of pops out of it, you know, or like sense horror, you know, where you're like taking away different things, and see each movie tries a different element and a different, you know, driving point, like a different monster or a different element to why this is happening. It could be supernatural. It could be, you know, something that plays off people's fear, like a shark, or like a person. You know, it could be, you know, a psychopath killer or something, like, you know. So all these movies do that, but this one plays on the unknown entity. It plays off what could it be. It makes you imagine the different things, and they kind of play with it in the movie of like what could it be, like the crazy guy's drawings, like the guy who's like corrupted. He like takes out all those drawings and puts them on the table, and you wonder, is that what they look like, or is that just his crazy drawings, or like what does he see? Like it makes you just think about it and wonder. And that's cool. Each of these movies have, each one of them pretty much, like, well, especially A Quiet Place, makes you think, well, what happens next? Like at the end, it shows you, they all end on kind of like cliffhanger or Band-Aid moments where you want to see more. And they're all pretty good movies, but they're not like, to me, people rave and rant about them. They love them. And I can see why they would enjoy them, and I enjoy them too, but I don't come away thinking like, wow, that's like instant classic. Like, like this is amazing, like top tier, A+ rating. I'm just like, these are all like, all right. Like they all seem like the same kind of vibes I'm getting from these stories, like the same kind of thing, but told in a different way, a different sense being taken away or played with. And while that is interesting, it has its place in the market. There's so much more that can be done, but Birdbox specifically, I didn't feel like they came up to anything close to a satisfying conclusion other than, well, it had to end, so that's where we're going to leave it.
But the movie had me feeling like if there was a sequel, I could see room for this to get better and get really good. I mean, now that they're at like a place where there's tons of people, I mean, ultimately there's tons of characters and almost like a way that they could keep working with the story. Like there could be a story what happens next. They should overcome it. And then something like that could make the first one better, knowing that you can just go into the next one and find out more, I what I really wanted to see was, and some people, they don't agree. I like to see what they see, The whole thing is like, oh, it seems like, you see the thing that you fear most, but some people walk towards their vision. So it's like, if you were afraid of what you saw, you'd probably run the other way, But is it that, or does it trigger something that makes you want to like commit suicide? Because there was that one guy, the older guy's wife, she saw her mother and like walked towards her mother. That sounds like it lured her, Not that it made her suicidal.
Like maybe she'd want to be with her, like be with your family when you die or whatever.
Yeah, and the fire was like the light or something, and she like walked into it.
Yeah.
Like they could have, there was so much opportunity to like explain that. And I actually did see afterwards, it's a good thing I didn't forget to mention this on Twitter. There was actually pictures, the makeup artist, it was actually cut from the film. They were going to show Mallory what she sees when she looks at the creatures. So
right, which was like a weird baby creature.
Yeah, you saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me that shows that there could have been a scene where she found a way to get out of it,
Right.
Because how could that movie
like
end?
overcoming her fear or problem is the way.
That would have been interesting. That would have added to the story, and it would have gave, like you have her sister die in the beginning, and then you find out you see the thing you most fear, but it's like you don't know what everyone's afraid of. Like at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like you can't even imagine it. Like Olympia, the one who had the daughter, she just like jumps out the window, and it's like, well,
yeah.
What did you see? Like, what happened? Like, I can't even imagine what you've seen because I don't know enough about this character to know what her fears are.
Yeah, something so strong that would make you want to commit suicide.
What? Or run towards it. Like, what?
Right.
Like, they just kind of hope you don't ask those questions, I guess.
It reminds me of, like, Harry Potter when they see the boggart, and it shows you their fears. It visually shows everybody what their fears are, though. Everyone in the room gets to see it. So that to me, it's like something. The thing they did with Bird Box, where they're not showing you, to me, that's something you do on like a TV show that you didn't have a good budget or something, and you're like, oh, we'll just show them reacting to it, and then because we don't have the CGI or like the crew or the talent to do this, but I feel like they did, and they just it's a point choice to not show the creature, or not the creature really, but what they're seeing. And I'm like, come on, like to me it's a problem. Like, imagination's one thing, hand holding, whatever, but you could say all these things to defend it, but I'm just like, come on, like, it's interesting. Like, it's I think it would be compelling to at least show Mallory's stuff and her overcoming it.
Yeah, being able to see what's on that other side is like supposed to be the big reward.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's like it's like the Godzilla movie that just came out, in 2014, but they showed like no Godzilla at all, but you just saw his destruction and everything he did. I mean, there was not a lot of Godzilla in that movie anyways, but imagine if there was zero. That's kind of like what this movie is like.
Exactly.
There's no payoff. No payoff at all.
There's never a point where you get to see the thing that you wanted to see.
And even the ending wasn't quite what I wanted to see. Like, yeah, they're quote unquote safe, and she finally gave a name to boy and girl, which is another thing to bring up of like, really? Like, I know you got hangups, but why is that a thing?
They tried to play it up like she was some sort of like badass, like no connections here.
Sarah Connor-ish.
Yeah, like you're not.
But
like,
even Sarah Connor uses John Connor's name.
Yeah, like I don't even know how to describe how I feel about it. Like, it's just like, wait, now all of a sudden she's like a hardcore. She was raised with no love, so cold. She's like a badass type mom,
trying for no
I was
connection.
Like, wait, now she's this character? Like, I didn't get this vibe from her before.
Yeah, like, I know she had problems and hang-ups and like,
but like doesn't even name a kid. Like, you didn't seem that bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you seem like you were pretty like firm on your issues, but like that's just a very, to me, like a forced problem to have her overcome. Like a very silly thing. Because why would they be okay with that?
I guess they
like
just wanted to make her seem tough. And to have that guy, her boyfriend, raise the kids, and he doesn't name them? Like, he's just like, yeah, I tried. She just, she wouldn't let me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I gave it a shot, but every time I did, she would, like, threaten my life.
Like, how did she get her way with that one?
Like, he comments on it, of course. Like, why are you still calling him that? Or why do you call them that? Or this or that? Or...
But it's not like he has alternative names that he calls them.
I'm saying, like, he's complaining about something he does nothing to solve, So it's like, or just sidesteps her and just does anything a normal person would do and just give them names. Like, and they're what, like 4 or 5 years old or something like that at that point? Or they're the same age, right? Wait, they were born at the same time, but
yeah, no, they were
different
born
heights.
What's that?
They're like different heights. One's taller than the other.
She seems younger.
Yeah, I mean, that could just be the actors.
Her lines were way more childish.
Yeah, huh? Interesting to think about, because they play it off, like they're born exactly the same time, yet they seem like they have a little bit of a gap.
Like 2
and,
years.
That could be development or whatever. It's not like they went to school, but it just seems like there's a discrepancy. Like they might have forgot that they were born at the same time in the story. Like they're like, whatever. We just need him to look this way and act this way.
I also thought it was like, really, they're gonna be, like, you immediately knew, like, oh, I'm due the beginning of October, and the other one's like, oh, I'm due at the end of September. I was like, they're gonna have the baby at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that's exactly what happened. I also said everyone's gonna die, and They did. I was like, the kids aren't
Yeah.
gonna die though, and then they didn't.
No.
No one, like, everything. The problem is you only have to watch this movie for about 25 minutes to know how it ends.
Yeah, pretty much. Everything was pretty predictable.
You can guess your whole way through it, and it's like, don't expect there to be a curveball because, you know, like, it's not gonna get you at the last minute. It's like, no, what do you think happens. You know, by the time you're almost halfway through the movie, you can turn it off. You've seen the end.
You know, that's an interesting point because I think in a world now where we have lots of media and shows taking greater risks and twists and turns, it kind of shows when this story was written, being like, you know.
Yeah, I believe the novel came out in 2014.
It just shows its age. Yeah, so it shows its age, and like we have like Game of Thrones now, right? So to me that like changes the game in terms of story, where like now you can shake things up. Like you don't know what the heck's going to happen. Like, you know, I find that to be much more interesting. I don't want to predict or see something I've seen the formula of so many times. I know what's going to happen, or I can just guess and be like, well, that was the obvious, you know, safe conclusion. It's like I want them to take more risks and be a little bit more interesting. You know, that's what I'm hoping to see. But you know from the get-go with this movie that, well, almost, like you said, almost from the get-go. That
once you meet all the characters, then you can firmly say. But I think even before that, because they show her being on the boat before she meets the characters, I believe. So you know that whoever you meet in this movie dies. And then there was those two people who just jack the car and go. It's like their characters... There's a difference between, like, characters that screw you over, but, like, I wasn't surprised at all. It was like, okay, yeah, it'd be them. Like, it's not like, oh my god, they played them that whole time.
You know what would have been interesting is if those guys got corrupted and, like, came back and, like, they were someone they had to deal with.
You know what's funny? I didn't even set the bar low enough. I was like, oh, okay, they'll come back as, like, you know, maybe like heroes, or they're going to run into them again and it's going to be awkward or something. And then they just...
Oh, you thought the opposite.
They didn't even do that. They didn't even do that, like,
Yeah.
easy cliche thing to do. They just did nothing with it.
Yeah, it's very odd. A very odd choice.
And it's like, I guess you can argue that... it's like, oh, it's completely random. You don't know what happened. It's like... Nah, like, this just is bad. You know, like, that was just bad writing.
It's just poorly thought out. You know, we've been saying it throughout this, but it's just not, there's not enough elaboration on the story. You should have seen them die or
something. If you were going to get rid of them, kill them off. Then it's like, oh, there's two people you won't see, like, what their fear is or know anything about them.
Unless there's a sequel where they bring those two random past characters back in some way, because they seem to... As much as they seem to ditch characters and stuff, they also seem to be like, we're going to show you those characters again or have them be important. Like, or just show up, period, and be a happy moment. Like at the end of the movie when the nurse shows up.
Yeah, and it's like, I knew less about the nurse and she showed up.
So, like, the point is they're like, look, we brought her back. And it's like, well, you have, like, mixed things in this movie. Like who to bring back, who to let go, you know, like who we're never seeing again, who to see again, like what's going on? Like it's all over the place. You know, I talked about all the movies that I was thinking of that have come out in recent years that are kind of like also decent. Some are better than this one for sure, but I lob them all into like the same box, you know, like I'd buy all these movies in like a combo pack if I was going to buy them. But you know, you could see it, like they would put these in a collection. And anyways, it reminds me of The Last of Us a little bit. You know, it's kind of like a movie that's almost has a video game level plot, you know, which is to say like The Last of Us tries to be like a big budget movie with like zombie or infected type stuff.
That game has a lot more to talk about than this movie.
That's what I'm talking about. So when you make a movie that, you know, Naughty Dog with The Last of Us is like, we're trying to up our game in terms of storytelling and just what we could do with the media and the medium. This movie, which is fully free to be a movie and not a game and just tell this, compelling, elaborate story, it doesn't even hit those marks that The Last of Us does, which is interesting.
I think it would work better as a survival horror game.
That's what I'm talking about. So you have it would work more because the story elements aren't as prominent, which in a game you don't need them to be as fully fleshed out. You just kind of need the beats to be there, and the game speaks for itself.
Something like that. You can have a minimal story and just have fantastic gameplay.
I don't know how you'd have a game where you can't see, but maybe it'd be a VR game or something. I don't know. That'd be interesting. A VR survival game where you can't see.
I bought this $500 VR set so that I could look at nothing.
And then you could peek or something, and you'll be in danger. I don't know.
Maybe you could somewhat see through the mask, through the bandana.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Limited visibility, because even when you have a mask on, you could see under it. The light peeking through. You can kind of see through the material, the cloth. I think some horror games have even tried that, some PC ones or whatever. I'm pretty sure I've seen them playing with that concept. But anyways, Birdbox would kind of fit into that way more, or way better than it does as a standalone movie. And I'm saying The Last of Us, it's an apocalyptic setting. It also connects adults and children in a survival scenario with extreme circumstances, which both are interesting, but Last of Us is much more interesting. It's not like your standard zombie story, although it tries to make you think it is at first. And Bird Box is very predictable, and it's entertaining in a way that's passable, whereas The Last of Us is entertaining in a way that defines gaming, and everything will try to be like it for years to come, and the movie itself is well made. I feel visually it looks good. I mean, they didn't waste time with CGI monsters or characters, even though we want to see them. They didn't really. It's all pretty much live action, and that's cool. It feels very grounded. It feels almost realistic, even though there's supernatural elements. But the story structure between switching past and present day is kind of okay, although I was kind of bored whenever they switched back to the river, because I was it's just them in a boat still.
Yeah, nothing important happens.
Yeah, they have the one guy that is come here. What is he doing? He's wading in the river anyways. It doesn't make sense. And he's come here, take off your mask. Oh, the children, talk, trying to lure them out, and then she has to kill him. It's just what a weird, that's what happens. Kind of that's what you came up with, the scenario for how someone would attack you in the boat, and how you would overcome that.
You could even forgive that if there were better scenes, because that would be oh, that's a crazy thing that happened to them.
It's probably more interesting to have that guy be in a boat coming after them, and then they both, they all go down in the rapids at the same time, and then he's the one, he gets hit, on a rock or something and dies. I mean, that to me is better than what happened. I don't know. It seems more plausible, maybe.
It's just, at the very, it doesn't take much thought to explain why this movie's such a phenomenon. And I think it's 43 million people have seen it, and it's the most streamed, whatever, I don't care, but a lot of people like it. And it's just crazy what you can do with a simple story, but stick an actor like Sandra Bullock in it and slap it on the face of Netflix, and people will just click on it without a thought. Because the trailer was good. The trailer was awesome.
Yeah, it really made it. It really
I was oh, okay, this should be good.
What it was.
And it wasn't. It was it's not even, no, it's not good. I'm not changing my mind. It's really not that good. I was disappointed.
What's interesting? It is, to me, it's theater level of having a movie come out with a big actor that's, it's not imagine straight to home video. It's like straight to net. It's a different format. It's a different form that people aren't as used to, I don't think, yet, even though streaming platforms are pretty everywhere. And I still think it's a foreign concept to have a big budget movie come out on a streaming platform where you can watch it at home. Because, that's the thing everyone growing up anyway always talked about. Like, imagine you could watch, movies that come out in the theater at home, like right away, like, legitimately, like, to me, that's always something that I thought was the future. And this is kind of, showing people that, yeah, like, this is a movie you could probably watch in a theater and pay for a ticket, but here it is on Netflix. And I think that's a cool concept. I think it's worthy of seeing it in a theater. Like, at least not knowing what it is going in, and you pay for the ticket and you see the movie and you're like, you come out and you're like, man, like,
the trailer looks sick.
That, yeah, exactly. Like, I wouldn't feel like cheated, but I wouldn't mind. I'd be like, yeah, it was a movie. Like, it was cool in parts. It was good enough. I wouldn't probably think about it again or like buy it on Blu-ray or anything like that at all. That's why I think it has a place. And a lot of movies are like that. So I think a lot, the streaming services are where those movies have a home and where they could thrive and be successful. It's like a good platform for them. I don't think they should be in theater, to be honest. Like, leave the theater for like the best. Like, make me go there. I want to sit at home and watch this mediocre thing on Netflix. Like, let me do that.
No, I know exactly what you mean. No, it takes me a lot to get my ass up and actually go to the movies now.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh, did you see Birdbox? It's like, it's really not that hard for me to just click on it. It's on the front page too, so.
Say, of course I saw it. It's on Netflix. I was in my PJs.
I was like, oh, Sandra Bullock's got a new movie and I can watch it right now.
And I can pause it and go wherever I want and watch it on my other device.
Which is crazy that such big name actors are getting into things like these. I mean, even Sigourney Weaver was on Defenders. For some reason, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, that really blends the whole like Hollywood streaming service world.
Yeah, it's opening it wide open and making it. Those guys are there specifically to make you think, or just actually the whole perception is to change it to be more viable. You want it to be more taken seriously.
You have all these actors or like, there's been a couple actors who have directed their own things and done it through like Netflix. I guess maybe there's like, it's cheaper to work with Netflix or something. It's got to be cheaper to work with Netflix.
Oh yeah, and they're hungry for content.
Yeah, so they're like, if we can get this guy's name on here, cool, let's do it. Some of the best documentaries have been on Netflix. Like Making a Murderer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, that used to be like HBO's thing, to have like
Absolutely.
Documentaries and such, and now it's like Netflix's are better. This is the world we live in now.
Yeah, Netflix is not sitting on its laurels. It's not safe. It's not like, oh, we're the king and nothing can take us down. If anything's shown us in recent years with like Toys R Us and even Sears getting kicked down, it's like no matter how long you've been around, that doesn't matter if you don't change with the times and you stay hungry and keep adapting. And I even read that Nintendo's president said that they were thinking about even, doing things other than games, and that they always bring this up, but they were like, we've existed as a toy company, for 100 plus years. Like, we're going to continue to adapt. And he's kind of dropping hints of like, they might move into many other things and maybe consoles aren't forever. And I kind of never want that to be true or the thing. But like, I kind of understand if people need to do what they need to do or businesses do to like survive. And something like Netflix, I don't think it's a problem at all for them to be trying to get people to go to their platform and subscribe to them and keep their subscription and give them compelling reasons to, even though they're probably shelling out so much money to make all this happen all the time. And at such a frequent rate and at such a, like high budget stuff. But like, I think for now we're enjoying the ride, like we're enjoying what they're willing to do to keep the spot. And that's cool. I don't think it'll last forever, but I hope that just we get to see more interesting stuff that we could just see on our couches at home. And I think if Netflix doesn't do it, I think other people are going to do it. Always. I think Hulu's going to do it. I think, Amazon. I think Disney's new streaming thing is going to do it.
I think Disney's new streaming will be the biggest competition. I mean, with all the exclusive Marvel content and Star Wars content that they've already announced, I mean, you have so many diehard fans who are like, it's just like, it's a reflex to them. They don't even think about it. They just sign up.
It's next level. It's like if Nintendo had shows and started, their own streaming service, and it'd be like, oh, that's it. Like, I'm on it. But they do that anyways in the gaming world, where it's an insta buy. Even like, say Mario 3 or something comes out on the new virtual console, it's like, getting it. It's like, each time, those diehard fans are always going to follow you wherever you go, and however many ways they can support you, they probably will in some way.
When you're talking Marvel Star Wars fan, you're not talking small number of diehards. You're already talking millions. Over. I'd love to see
worldwide.
How Disney Plus survives its first day. People are probably going to be flooding on it like crazy.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of stuff they put on there and how it goes and what price points, and they could do whatever they want almost.
You know what? It's kind of interesting to see like the birth of a streaming service this big, like essentially overnight, because it's like Netflix kind of adapted into what it is today, but this is something that's going to like...
Yeah, they've done it over time.
Yeah, like this is going to start like in one day, and it's like you could kind of search through. I wonder how big the library will be. Like, will it be a limited library, or will there be one day where it's like, oh, now there's so much stuff on here. I remember when there was only like a couple shows on here to watch.
Yeah, the one thing we could probably count on is that no service I've ever experienced is perfect off the get-go. In a world where we live in, where there's patches and updates for everything and constant reiterations and tweaking and trying different formulas based off what their marketing teams are gathering for info or data, it's definitely going to change over time and probably get better as time goes on, hopefully. I can't see it not being like exciting right off the bat. Like, they have too many IPs that are famous and have such history in, animation and film. I can't see how it won't immediately be like, yeah, this is the best thing I've ever, like, this is the one I want to sign up for.
Right.
Because I definitely am interested. Sorry, Netflix.
Sorry if you're listening in on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Still love Stranger Things, though, and Castlevania. This is my top 2 favorite things on there.
Yeah, Stranger Things. That's a good one. But anyway, that, it's definitely interesting to speculate, but only time will tell what we get. So, I don't know if you had any last thoughts that you wanted to put on Birdbox, Sam?
Not really. I've said everything.
There's not much to say.
I don't want to really crap all over the film or anything. It doesn't really deserve, like, any harsh negative criticism. There's just,
I definitely have to throw it at like a 4.75 out of 10. I think it lies in that range. Like, it's an easy watch. It's definitely an easy movie to watch. It's just don't expect it to captivate you or have anything cool to tell you.
It's definitely something you could watch and your family, people people that traditionally maybe wouldn't watch everything, or you'd be like, hey, check this out.
If you can breathe, you can sit through it.
It's kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. But for me, I'm looking for something a little bit more, but it certainly served its purpose. I can't really knock it any more than we already have discussed. And, it also has its good moments for sure. There are things there that are cool, like really compelling stuff that I find interesting. Like I said, it seemed like a Hideo Kojima thing because of what I've seen of Death Stranding, his little video game he's working on. They have kind of like invisible supernatural monsters going on too, but we don't know what that is yet or how deep the rabbit hole goes. But I'm interested. I'm like, you got me. So like that whole mystery element can be cool, but you also can't be too afraid not to show your monster. Like it was intentional, but I also feel like, come on, show the thing. Come on. I want to see it.
Nah, I agree.
I want to be able to draw it. I want to see it on a shirt. I want to see fan art. I want to see a poster. I want to see a parody of it, but not in a way where it's like, oh, look at it, and then it's just like a blank room, and you're like, like there you go. There's your parody right there. So, but it's true to the movie, but the movie's a little bit more intense as it is a horror thriller. So they really do pay. They pay off on that. Horrifying things happen. It does get pretty gruesome. They won in that front, and I got to give them props for that. They went hard on certain elements and left certain elements out.
Completely.
Yeah. Anyways, that's pretty much it for Bird Box. I don't know what we're going to talk about next. We haven't discussed, but maybe it's something a long time ago. Galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my 4.5 out of 10 rating. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. I agree. So we'll catch you guys next time, and thank you for watching.
We'll catch you guys next time, and this has been another amazing and restful and peaceful time at the FireLink Podcast. We hope you guys have a lit day, night, week, year.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned for more. And thank you again for listening.